11th, 4 o'clock. We'll get started with our call to order, our Board of Directors meeting of the Holland Board of Public Works. Janet, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. I'll try to remember off the top of my head.
Just look over here. Should we get the microphone?
Yes, I know. I will.
Okay, all right.
Thompson.
Here.
Maloof.
Here.
Lilly.
Here.
Couch.
Here.
Corbin. Engbers. Lynn. Van Beek.
For the record, we have a quorum. Could we have a motion on the agenda?
I move that we accept the agenda as it's been presented.
Second.
Motion by Lilly, second by Maloof. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have an agenda. At this time, we'll open the meeting up to communications from the audience. We provide an opportunity for anybody who would like to address the board to do so, requesting you state your name and address for the record and adhere to a 5-minute speaking limit. Any communications from the audience today? Hearing none, we'll close communications from the audience and turn it over to our general manager.
Good afternoon. Nice to be with all of you. The consent agenda we'll start with under item 4 has 3 items this afternoon for your consideration. First item is a request to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of April 6 and the special meeting of April 27. Item B is a request to approve a release of a special assessment per the 1981 agreement with Robert Manis. Item C, 4C, is a request to approve a unit price contract with ComServe Communication for a 1-year term to assist with drop construction, and that's following the wrap-up of ITG's work as part of the Holland City Fiber deployment. So this would be for actual work going into 2027, and that work would also just supplement our internal staff. So that is a request for that unit price contract, and so those are the items on the consent agenda.
Question, ITG is going to be completing work through what time period?
Yeah, I think through the end of the fiscal year. But Ted, if you want to address it, maybe step up there. That'd be great. Thanks.
So Paul, probably the physical outside the house drop construction, they're going to finish up probably this month, and then they'll have someone here for the inside work through June. So they'll be complete. Yep. The way that contract was structured is we were looking for a minimum per month. So once they're not that busy, it doesn't pay for them to stay in the market if we can't continually keep them busy. So it was reaching its end, and they didn't bid on the additional work. So this new contract, there's no minimum. So as we need them, we'll use them.
Okay. In the at the present time, it's anticipated how many will we do and they do on a month-to-month basis? Do you have any idea?
Not really. I think early on, probably they'll do a lot of more underground work because we don't have our equipment yet. That's in the fiscal 27 budget. So, and then we might get a bunch for a week, and so they come in for a week, do a bunch every day for a week, and then they come back a month later, 2 months later. However, we're hoping to use them a lot because that means we have a lot of new customers. And we're going to hire a new fiber tech too, remember? Right. So we'll have 3, so that'll allow us to do more work as well. Yeah.
Do we have any kind of objective in mind as we reviewed this contract that we want to be able to complete 50 in a week or anything like that?
Yes. So I can't remember exact wording in the recommendation, but I think we're projecting another close to 1,400 for fiscal 27. So that $300,000 will allow us to do, I think 300 and some, maybe it's a little bit more than that, services. So it's about 30% of what we totally project, I think was, if I remember correctly, would be their work or up to. So the nice thing about that is if they do work for a few months and then we never call them again, it is what it is. It's because it's a unit price instead of a guaranteed amount. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Dave, if I could ask a question about item B, and you gave some background a little bit earlier, but my question would be, is this a practice that continues? And or, additionally, do we know of any maybe other existing like-kind items?
No, but this is, I don't know of anything, again, that's outstanding as it relates to that. And matter of fact, even I think having this hanging out there, I don't know that it is really an issue because, again, what we understand, and just for a little backdrop here for those that might be listening at home, item B has to do with the release of this special assessment. What happened back in 1981 is that one entity agreed to pay the cost of extending sewer between US 31 and Waverly on 24th because they wanted to hook up a couple properties. Well, that's a fairly large area, and so the idea was that there'd be a reimbursement to that individual as other properties get developed, and there would, they'd be assessed essentially, and that would allow that reimbursement to occur. And so this is not a totally unusual situation. There can be situations where an entity comes in and says, I'm going to put this in and pay for it all the way from A to B, but as stuff fills in, we'll have some sort of agreement for reimbursement. I don't know of any others that are outstanding as it relates to that, but also we don't see there's a lot of exposure here by having that outstanding because, again, these properties in between US 31 and Waverly were developed years ago. And so this was just discovered as part of a process of our law firm that works with us having another client that they were working with that actually identified this as being an item that was in the registered, against the title of the property. And so it was something that, came up and said, that's all been developed. Let's go ahead and exercise this expiration, essentially. Let's go ahead and release this. And so that's what the city attorney's office has helped us with, is the draft of that release document.
Any further questions on the consent agenda items?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's a motion by Maloof, second by Lilly. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's approved. Moving on to major project updates.
Yeah, again, these projects have been updated periodically through the month and should have all been, I think, the status here through late last week when the pack is released. So if anybody's had a chance to take a look at those. One I'm going to highlight real quickly is just to give you an idea, again, where we are in Holland City Fiber. You can see that as of May 4, a little over 4,000 customers, 4,070 roughly. And I think there's, correct me if I'm wrong, Ted, probably between applications pending and services for installations, about 600 or so, I think, or a little, roughly in that area that are going to be happening. We are working pretty feverishly hooking up people in the Heights area at this point. And so.
Yeah. We have a little thermometer for the number we hope to get this fiscal year, and it's a little over 4,400. So I was assured just last week, we think we're going to make that.
I think we're in good shape. Yeah. And so continue to get those fiber hoods substantially complete. I think there's 2 more fiber hoods that are needing to reach substantial completion yet by the end of June. And that would get us to the build out of the passings network at that 2.5-year timeline that we had identified to the community when the construction began. So we're excited about getting to that point. And yeah, the growth looks strong there and hitting some of those milestones that we had in our pro forma. The other thing I'd point out, again, just coming soon is the closeout for the Steckity lift station there, just some landscaping work that's coming. Water meter project's working really well too, going along really well. We're at about 42% completion there, a little over 3,600 meters to date have been completed. Also, the work on unit number 7 is a pretty big project. As you recall, we've had some discussions about some change orders there and additional work that is on track to be done just after Memorial Day. So we'll have the peaker back as we get into the summer season. Also, chemical storage, big project at our water treatment plant. 2 out of the 3 chemicals have been moved over to operational out of that new area. And the polymer system is scheduled to go into that startup process later this week. And so that's moving along well. And then, although we're not there today, it's just because of some carpet cleaning that needs to happen to get the boardroom ready to go again. The lobby is finished and the customer service area. So if you've been by the service center, you can see that has all been renovated now, and the customer service is back operating out of their normal location. The lobby is fully available. So we'll be working on getting the boardroom has been painted last week, and we'll be doing some carpet work in there this week, and then getting it ready to go so that your next meeting will be there. So I think that's pretty much the highlights, unless anybody had any other questions about projects that were on the list there.
Hearing none, move into the regular agenda items.
All right. Moving right along, item 6A is a request for a capital budget amendment along with a contract. And this contract is for some high voltage equipment at the James Street substation. And so I know Steve Brynsma is here to take us through the details of that. So Steve, I'll turn over to you.
Thanks, Dave. Good afternoon. Yes, the first item up for the recommendation here today is a budget amendment, capital budget amendment for the James Street 138 kV breaker replacement project. A little bit of history going back. These breakers were originally ordered for our 40th Street substation that we were planning to build. That was put on pause or canceled for the time being for a major customer of ours. But we knew that we needed breakers in the future. We decided to move that up by a year or so and purchase those breakers, or keep that purchase order open for those breakers, and then reallocate them to the James Street project. Also asking for approval for a budget amendment on that. During that time, we way underestimated the scope of the project and what costs were really about replacing those breakers. Over the past number of years, costs have kind of escalated with construction costs and things like that. Also, the scope of the project, we decided it was in our best interest to replace the secondary cables, the control cables going back to the control house that pushed that cost up a little bit. So the recommendation here is to approve a contract with Newkirk Electric. Newkirk Electric was the lowest responsible bidder for the project, coming in at a cost of $183,642. Newkirk, Kent, and Heidecker, all three of those were recommended proposals by us. They were all good proposals, no problems with any of them, but Newkirk was by significantly the lowest cost. Newkirk has done a number of projects for us over the last, I'm going to say 30 years since I've been here, but Kent and Heidecker are also very responsible as well. So the other part of it is asking for that budget amendment of $145,860, bringing the total cost of this whole project to $595,860 from the $450 that was originally put into the capital budget for electric distribution.
And Steve, just a reminder, when we said we kept the PO open for that other one in order to defer, or to put it over here to essentially that the lead time on those breakers, when we made that again, what was that?
Originally, the lead time, if I recall exactly, was around 70 weeks.
Yeah.
The problem is today, from what I'm hearing, is around 170 weeks. It's very lengthy. So an original purchase order was for 4 breakers. We lowered it to 3 because that's all we needed at James. In hindsight, I'm kind of thinking we should have just kept it at 4 and kept one in the warehouse somewhere, because just lead time is just ridiculous.
And again, anything on that 100 kV and higher, you're getting a lot of, demand for data centers, and so that's driving supply chain on that really high voltage side of things.
Yeah.
So.
We went through great pains to try to make that all happen, but yes, the breakers arrived right around the end of December there this past year. We have those in storage ready to go for the project, but timeline, even This contract, we wrote a letter of intent to Newkirk so that they could order small connectors, but some small connectors, 30 weeks. Just things that you would think you could get at the auto parts store. But just some of the lead times on some of these products is just ridiculously long. So, and yeah, so budget amendment and also a contract with Newkirk Electric is the recommendation, so.
On
Any
that budget
questions?
amendment, is it equally labor and materials, or is it heavy on the material side?
I'm really not quite sure on that. Most of this is labor. I'm sure the materials are part of it, but most of this project for them, because we already procured the breakers under a separate purchase order, and we already have those breakers, so they're not buying the breakers. This is just, the 183 is just for installation.
Just to clarify though, Steve, the budget, the 595,860 covers the supply of the breakers and Newkirk's contract.
That's correct.
Right, and maybe
Yeah.
some engineering time in that as
Right.
well.
Yep.
Right, so there's all three components of this that are driving that. And so, part of that is gonna be probably what that breaker cost was in there that we had.
Yeah.
Because the contract value is 183,000 and we're asking for 145 transfer from contingency. So breakers had to be elevated as well as part of that.
Yeah,
So-
breakers were just over $300,000 of the project,
Right, yeah.
so.
Could we have a motion on this recommendation?
Motion to approve a contract with Newkirk in the amount of $183,642 with a 10% contingency of $18,000 for a total of $201,642 for the services to replace the 338 kV breakers at the James Street substation, and approve a fiscal year 2026 capital budget amendment in the amount of $145,860 for a total project budget of $595,860 pending approval as to form from the city attorney.
Support.
Motion's by Engberg, supported by Lynn. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
All right, Steve's going to stick around for the next item here, which again is sort of a shuffling of the deck in the capital budget based upon priorities in the system. So as I understand it here, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, no new money really, but it's talking about where we're moving stuff from to make sure that we have enough in the area of the new underground, or I'm sorry, for the replacement of the underground.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'll turn it over to you for that.
Thanks, Dave.
More specifically.
Yeah, try to explain that just a little bit. On the electric distribution capital budget, we have our first 5 lines every year that kind of repeat themselves. We have overhead construction, so all of our distribution is kind of divided up into an overhead side and an underground side from the lines. We also have transformers and meters. And then we also have another line, which is underground replacement projects, so upgrading some of the old underground. This past fiscal year 2026, starting in July, we've had spent a significant amount less in the new customer development. So we had a pretty sizable amount in the new development. But in some of the replacement projects for the underground replacement projects, we've gone ahead and done a little bit more work. Last year, we kind of wrapped up a lot of the make-ready, so a lot of our crews were doing a lot of that make-ready type work. And then towards the end of the year, our staff completed a lot of that make-ready work, and then we kind of transitioned back into replacement projects. What we were kind of thinking is we were going to work on a lot of new customer hookups, a lot of new underground, new developments, things like that. But our staff's been very working really hard to try to get things done and fix things and so forth. But we're kind of running a little bit short on the underground replacement projects. And we have a few projects that we'd like to keep going on rather than to slow down on that. So I'd like to transfer some of that money from the new customer growth to the replacement projects. The other piece of this is $50,000 of that 400 is for new electric meters. We're having a fair amount of new of electric meters that are failing. Originally, these meters we started to install these meters in 2014, 2015, and 2016. Now these meters are approaching 10 years old, and some of them are failing. But the meters that we're buying today are the new generation. So over the next number of 3 years here, I have a capital budget for the meter replacement project. But we're starting a little bit early rather than replacing them with the same version of meter. We're going to the new meter, Series 5 meters, so that will work with our new system. So I'm asking for $50,000 to be transferred into that as well, just because of the amount of meters that we're failing. We're really close on making it, but I hate to wait until June and say, oh, we're out of money. I'd rather just ask for $50,000 and then that'll cover us through June. Not expecting to spend all of that.
And just a reminder, make ready here again, for those that aren't familiar, this is the work associated with Holland City Fiber. We have to make ready the pole for the attachments of the fiber, and so the crews were spending a lot of time on that over the last year. And also was pretty heavy, as you remember, we were coming out of a phase of a lot of new builds. That slowed down a little bit, and so, you know, coming off those experiences, you know, we're redirecting a lot of these activities into this, you know, replacement of underground as well as the metering that Steve's talking about.
And as the budget as a whole, we're not increasing it. We're just moving it from one bucket to another in 2 different locations for a total of $400,000.
Is this meter replacements a mix of residential and commercial, or?
Residential, commercial, and industrial. You know, all of our meters, you know, approximately $200 to $300 a piece. But when you start going through them, sometimes, especially as the warmer temperatures start to warm up, some of these meters fail quicker. But they're also 10 years old. They've been out in the elements for 10 years, hot and cold, hot and cold. And they are the cash register of our revenue coming in. So as they fail, we like to replace them immediately. And as of recent, that curve has kind of gone up. And I don't want to have our staff slow down here in June. I think we're going to need a little bit to get us by, and I think $50,000 will be more than enough for that.
And how do you discover the failure of a meter?
The failure of the meter, we get notification when they quit calling in, so we can see that notification if the reads stop coming in, but the meter actually keeps reading, so we can go there in person and still read the meter, so we're not losing revenue. But the meter itself is just telling us, hey, it's coming to its end. There's actually a radio in there that calls in the reads as well, and that starts to fail. So there's a number of different failures that are coming. They're not always the same, but typically we don't lose any revenue on these, typically.
Thank you.
Could we have a motion on this request?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the electrical distribution budget amendment to transfer $350,000 from the new underground lines and equipment budget to the underground equipment replacement budget, and $50,000 from the new underground lines and equipment to distribution meter additions for the fiscal year 2026 electrical distribution capital budget.
Support.
Motion's by Lily, supported by Lynn. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's approved.
Sorry for the long-winded recommendations on both of those.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks.
On to our study item.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, excited to be on to study item. And again, just a reminder that in alignment with your policies, governance policy 002 does outline the agenda plan for a year. And on an annual basis, you want to hear a report of the safety and regulatory items affecting the organization. And Renee Kalkman is our safety and regulatory compliance manager. She and her team here, and if you have the PowerPoint available, you can see the individuals there. And I know Renee's going to do an introduction of them as well, and talk a little bit about them, as well as new to our group. One individual there, Mark, she'll probably pay attention or give special recognition to as well. So with that, and excited to bring Renee up. It's a change in responsibility for Renee this year as well, moving into that manager role. So appreciate her leadership and also the development of this report for you. I won't steal any more of your thunder, Renee.
It's all good.
All right. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks, Dave. Good afternoon. So our team's going to go over several of the regulatory items that we've been working on in the past year, but yes, did want to mention that Mark Rasmussen joined us 3 weeks ago. We've had him hitting the ground running since he's gotten in, but he's joined us from a consulting firm. It's a PE and environmental engineering. It's going to be a great addition to our team. So thanks for having us. I believe Jeffrey's going to kick off the slides, and we're going to tag team for a while. So thank you.
Hello, everybody. All right, so I'm going to get us started with the safety update side of it, and then I'll turn it over to Renee about halfway through, and then Mark and Madison will go over the environmental and regulatory compliance side of it. So to get us kicked off, I'm going to talk about kind of how we evaluate our program and some metrics that are associated with how we evaluate our safety program specifically. Starting out with our incident reports for calendar years here. So we've got our last 3 years of calendar year data with 45 incident reports from our most previous year. I've got the goals outlined on the right-hand side there, just to give you an idea of kind of what we're looking for on some of these. No goal necessarily with incident reports, kind of an uptick over the last few years in those. We have more staff, people get more comfortable reporting things. Some of those things are near misses as well, so maybe not necessarily a loss type incident that we're seeing with those, but just good ways to get information out there and provide us with opportunities to make corrective actions, improve things and processes. Below that, we have our work area safety observation program submissions, and you'll see kind of an uptick each year. That is a monthly average for employees that are participating in that program. They are submitting a observation on a monthly basis, something that's safe or unsafe, helps us provide some feedback to employees, maybe if something's not going quite so well, or get some positive recognition for something that is going well. So we've seen really great compliance with that program. Safety meeting attendance is something that we track. It used to be one of our corporate metrics that performance pay was based off of. It's something that we continue to track with our 90% goal there, and we're sitting just at 92% for calendar year 25, so we still see great participation in our monthly meetings for safety information. Supervisor pre-job brief submissions is a newer metric that we've been tracking. It started last year. And the information here, again, is based off calendar year. So we have met our 90% goal in that calendar year. Yeah, you guys probably saw the metrics from last year. We actually did not meet our goal of 90% for that fiscal year goal. But this is only representing six months of that information. With us missing that, we made some adjustments, created some opportunities for training, also made some of that information a little bit more accessible to supervision and directors to be able to track. And I'm happy to report that we're in a really good spot this year so far. We're actually at 100% compliance with that goal, so we're well above where we want to be. Next is our GPI Learn course completion. That is our learning management system. Keeps us up to date on our safety compliance trainings, and we're in a good spot with that. Also, 98% above our 95% goal. Recordable injuries for calendar year 25, we had 2. And our DART rate, so our days away, restricted, transferred work, anything that made it so an employee maybe wasn't able to do their job at full capacity, was at 8 days for calendar year 25. And I'll get into some more details on that on the next slide. So our 2 recordable injuries for last year, we had a hand laceration that resulted in those 8 days away, or excuse me, actually 8 restricted days. Hand laceration resulted in some stitches. Stitches resulted in those restricted days, and then we had a poison ivy case also that led to a prescription that was issued. Safety inspections. So again, just another way that we evaluate our program, how things are going. We had just around 20 scheduled operations and field site walkthroughs that we performed. Alongside those, we'll offer up recommendations for compliance issues, maybe best practices that we've seen to keep everybody up on the latest and greatest. We have group discussions after our incidents, so that 45 incident reports that we had on that first slide there, the majority of the time we'll have some conversations after those incidents occur. to improve processes. We'll assign corrective actions to the affected departments. Some corrective actions we'll take on ourselves to just to make sure things aren't happening again. We don't see any patterns with our incidents. We had a site visit with our insurance carrier. We usually have a couple of those on an annual basis just to keep them familiar with the work that we have going on, and they're able to assist us in certain ways. And then our last one on there is MIOSHA Consultation, Education, and Training Division. We had them visit our Holland Energy Park this year for award eligibility, something that we actually did with the water treatment plant a couple years back. It's a good way for us to build relationships with MIOSHA. And it also provides us with a reward for the hard work that the teams put in when it comes to safety. So they'll do a walkthrough with us. There's some eligibility that goes alongside that with our programs and procedures that we have in place. And they'll kind of give us a grade on certain things and provide us with a gold, silver, bronze award. Our goal is gold, and we're still kind of going through that process as far as information sharing with them goes, but everything seems positive so far. So. And then the last one I have here is another good news. APPA Safety Award is something that we apply for on an annual basis. And we did receive diamond status, which is the highest status that they offer for our size of utility, for our electric distribution and generation groups. So that award is based on our injury rates for the year, employee and management commitment to safety, and then our goals that we set. We kind of give them a summary of what we have looking forward. Questions on that information before I turn it over to Renee?
Yeah, could you
Yeah.
tell me the safety meetings that you have a
Yeah.
90% goal in? Is that every employee? Is that monthly? Kind of what is the?
Yep. So it is every
Framework.
employee monthly, and then that is representative of an average percentage over the 12-month period. So monthly basis, say we have 200 employees. 180 show up to the safety meeting or review the information that we push out to them. That'll give us our 90% there, and then we'll kind of take an average of that throughout the 12-month period.
And those meetings, are they scripted?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, so that's information that the safety team will put together at the beginning of the month, a collection of information from sharing incident reports from the previous month, a collection of the WASUPs that are submitted, updates for programs that we may have that we can push out, gives us a good outlet for that. So we'll push out that information. Probably about 75 to 80% of the organization meets with their departments, and they'll go over the information together. And then we also push it out through our learning management system for anybody that may miss those meetings to still have an opportunity to review it.
Yeah, and some of the stuff that you have in your learning plan, you can get done through those meetings, but it doesn't alleviate if you have missed that, you still have to go through the learning plan, and that's where kind of that GPI Learn, we have a series of courses that you're going to have to still go through to make sure that you stay up and are up to date on those things. But I would say also a lot of it's scripted, but there's probably opportunity in each of those groups too for more of a open discussion, on things that are going on as well during those meetings.
In the WASUPs, are those field held, or is that a review of some kind of activity that?
It is, it can really be anything that they observe from a safety standpoint. So the target, it could be out in the field, it could be something in the office. It is, the goal of the program is to have conversations, peer-to-peer conversations about something safety related. So you observe someone doing something safe, say they are going to reach something, they get a locking ladder that is appropriate for the job, giving them some positive reinforcement. It could be something as simple as that to, something out in the field that they wore all the correct personal protective equipment or whatever that may be.
So that could be a supervisor, it could be a
Yep.
partner.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
In terms of the goals that you have,
Yeah.
you have NA for a number of the categories.
Yep.
And I think inherently you want it to be 0, and
Correct.
that probably is your goal. But is there a reason why you put NA and not 0?
Not necessarily, no.
I think, one of the reasons on the lagging indicators, I know it's something that for years we had part of our corporate metrics and our variable pay program tied to the lagging indicators of the DART, and the OSHA really frowns on that sort of thing. Matter of fact, if you have any sort of program that would either have some sort of financial incentive or, potentially even peer-to-peer sort of, what do you call it, sort of peer pressure sort of incentive. You know, what you don't want to do is you don't want to have anything that's going to detract from somebody reporting an injury. And so, you know, yes, it is, we'd like to have 0 injuries. We'd like to have 0 darts for sure. But it's something that from the lagging indicator perspective, we've sort of said, let's shift and focus on the leading indicators then and reward those and then track the lagging indicators, but not have that be, but I mean, if I were to put a number on it, for sure, it's 0, absolutely, yeah.
In your collaborative work with MIOSHA that you cited, does MIOSHA have any current formal programs right now, or is it just kind of a annual thing that you work with them on?
They do have a MIOSHA Take a Stand Day that the Consultation Education Training Division will come in on an annual basis. It's something we participate in annually. We kind of rotate our operations facilities with that group. And yeah, it's just a visit. They stop in, kind of see things, get familiar with the business, give us some recommendations. There's no violations associated with it. There is a kind of an ask if they do find something that you take care of it, essentially. But again, it's a good relationship building opportunity with them that, yeah, we do participate in.
How does CET work for you guys? So for us, we can have them come to any job site.
Yep.
As many times as we want.
Yes. Yep, and that is the case for us as well.
So when you have them to Holland Energy Park, can you also have them to a substation where our crews are working to say, hey, don't change what you're doing, but come out and give us a outsider's perspective?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, it's been very beneficial. I'd highly recommend utilizing that because A, it's free. B, as long as, and I'm sure there's some similarities, as long as you have CET out, enforcement can't come within a period of time afterwards. They'll have to turn around and leave if you use CET. So it's kind of advantageous to get CET out there as much as you can. But yeah, it's a good program.
It's a good program.
Glad you use it.
All right.
I think
Yeah,
we're good.
I know
Thank you.
I know that's the first phase. That's that Jeffrey, and then you're turning it over. So we're not done on safety yet, but we're
Great.
going to keep moving forward.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Jeffrey.
Is there a forward button on it? That one? See, glad I asked. I'll be sending them in reverse. So yeah, part 2 of the tag team here. Wanted to bring you guys up to speed on a project that we worked on last year. We had a tactical action to update the safety manual. It was a pretty robust document, and we wanted to make it more usable for folks. So we simplified the table of contents, got the manual reorganized to stop duplication of some of the topics. Excuse me. The teams had given us feedback over the course of the year. We built that into the update in addition to, and it came up during audits. And then we have built it too so that when the next update for APPA safety manual comes out, which actually we have a meeting next week to talk about that. So it'll be coming out, I believe they're targeting fall of this year. We'll be able to take those changes and insert them a lot easier than we had before, trying to figure out, well, where do they live in the safety manual? So. Okay, I didn't do that right, did I? There we go, okay. Some programs that we've been working on, and these are very collaborative between the teams. The first one we mentioned there is 70B. It is actually in regards to electrical equipment maintenance, which seems like a bit of a stretch to how that overlaps with safety, but it runs in parallel to NFPA 70E, which is like arc flash safety. So we've got a cross-functional team working on that. Right now, the major focus is looking at critical equipment that we want to make sure we can ensure they are on a PM schedule, and we've got those maintained appropriately. Heat stress, we've been working on that for a couple of years, but this year we're going to be rolling out a program to the field teams. You may remember our previous heat stress program was utilized at the plants themselves, mainly at HEP, but we'll be rolling that out with the field crew this year. Contractor safety management, we continue to make strides for that in regards to making it easier for our teams to use. We've got some really good data. We have a lot of documentation through the contractors. We're trying to get it housed in the same area, be able to access it easily, get the training done easily and readily available before they come on site. It was a bit of a challenge, so kind of rearranged how that is set up, and it seems to be going smoothly. And then some program improvements to our big programs will come like our life safety programs, lockout, tagout, confined space, arc flash. Jeffrey's been working with the teams to talk to them about how they're using the program, how do we make them more usable, and then modifying that so it reflects how the team is using the programs. And then an ergonomic renovation, you guys are well aware of what's going on over at the service center. But we're really happy to say that seems to have gone very well. We talked to the teams last week. They really love the area, and it was a nice project to get that going. So we did participate in some planning on that. There we go. And some MIOSHA updates. Like Jeffrey mentioned, we try to keep a very open rapport with MIOSHA, the consultation, education, and training specialists that we worked with over the years, Deb Zeal and Chris Johnson both. We run into them at conferences, and we usually have a chat with them even there. But there have been some pushes in MIOSHA that we anticipate we'll probably hear from them in regards to these. And the two big ones are heat stress. So let's back up. There is a federal national emphasis program, and MIOSHA has adopted that. So it's not an official standard yet, but it's one of those, provide a safe work environment, right? So the part 1A. Anyway, heat stress falls under that. There's going to be a very significant amount of attention focused on that this year in a national emphasis program. And then the other one is something that was presented at the Michigan Safety Conference a couple weeks ago. I'm trying to get my bifocals lined up, sorry. It's in regards to struck by, crushed by, so things like somebody getting hit by a vehicle in a work zone, or lockout, tagout, getting caught on a piece of equipment, unloading and loading vehicles. There's a lot of those that pop up on the MIOSHA fatality list. There's going to be some training coming up, and then there'll be several public opportunities to discuss that and ways to try to capture, what's going wrong, how do we control it. Sorry, I went too far. Sorry, I ran through that really quickly, but questions on any of that?
Great. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Renee.
Thanks.
Yeah, on to the environmental and regulatory now. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so same deal as before. I'm going to talk a bit, and then Madison's going to come up after me. So, on the electric utility side, the EPA has finalized their NSPS amendments for stationary combustion turbines. HEP was assigned a low risk because we already have technology for reducing NOx and SOx emissions. So nothing should change for us there. EPA has new greenhouse gas performance standards, and then we recently started engaging with legislators on PA 229, which is legislation that is going to increase energy waste reduction targets, and that'll be increasing them from 50% by 2030 to 80% by 2035, and then 60% by 2035 to 100% by 2035. So we're hoping to get those more into reasonable goals that we can actually make. On the greenhouse gas reporting side of things, the EPA is still working on the rulemaking process to remove permanent 46 source categories of the program, and they haven't made a ruling yet. They pushed their reporting deadline back from, I think it was March of this year, to October. So we're still waiting on an update from EPA for that. For ozone non-attainment, for Eagle has the reasonably available control technology rules. Their NOx limits were 25 parts per million, which unfortunately does not get our 48th Street site out of serious non-attainment, so nothing is going to be changing for 48th Street, and we'll still be operating as usual for that.
And again, as you can see, that's lakefront communities, so that's transport issue, right? That's so.
Okay, on coal combustion residuals, we had an independent analysis to determine if the closed Zealand Township landfill qualifies as a CCR management unit. We had some surface water impoundments still after the 2015 compliance dates, so we may end up getting out of the legacy CCR rules, but the deadline for that determination was pushed back until next year. What that means for us is we may have to end up doing more groundwater sampling out at the landfill. We're already doing that twice per year, so we may end up having to do more of that.
And Mark, if I can, real quick, I think everybody here remembers, right, that we had operated a landfill for years. It's a little bit north of the Autumn Hills landfill, which is on, if you take Adams out, you kind of go past that. But on 56th, if you go north a little bit, there's a parcel there that we've had. And again, it's been closed for a number of years, but some of these rule changes and regulations could bring back some monitoring requirements primarily, but there's
Yep.
things that we're sort of taking a look at to see if, how we might be affected by that.
So any questions before I hand it over to Madison? Cool.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep.
All right. Hello, everyone. Okay.
I know
Got
you'd
it.
think to go right at the screen, right?
You
But
know, it
yeah,
should just be anywhere.
The boxes, it's
Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it should be rotating, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so a little update with the gas pipeline side of it. Recap on the Michigan Public Service inspections for '25. We did a integrity management program review as well as some cathodic protection observations. They found no issues of noncompliance there, so that was great news there. Couple little recommendations for language changes in some of our procedures, but nothing major, no non-compliances there. Coming up this year, we have our operations, maintenance, and emergency procedure review, as well as observations on our leakage surveys. Kind of tying into those leakage surveys and some of our patrolling is a new emerging popularity within PHMSA and unmanned aerial system for right-of-way patrols. So drone patrols and leakage surveys using drones. This is certainly a growing popularity topic here. So PHMSA is exploring some of their rulemaking for that, of having some uniform guidance on the functionality and use of those for patrolling and leakage surveys there. Right now, they're just reviewing some of this rulemaking. That nothing has been proposed, nothing is, finalizes that. It's just exploratory right now. And then Michigan Public Service right now, they have been approved to enforce increased maximum fines for any gas safety violations. Hopefully that doesn't impact us. That's certainly the goal, but that is some new information for them. Moving on to the water utility. I believe you guys have been briefed on the lead and copper rule, so I won't go too into the weeds on that. I'm sure you've heard quite a bit on that, but we did have our notice of violation for certification and public notification for that ruling there. And this is Senate Bill 123, and they're still looking at the extent that we fall under this ruling of our timeline for replacement for these lead service lines here. Dave, I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
Yeah,
for
I guess,
that.
again, just reminder that we've got the federal lead copper rule improvements. The state is going to have to take up a rulemaking process, for itself. And the state cannot do something less restrictive than the federal government. And so, there could be a worst of both worlds, and that is the federal government, when it did its lead copper rule improvements, took and shrunk the compliance timeline for the replacement of materials that are subject to needing to be replaced, such as lead lines and galvanized lines that actually have a large enough section of it that's lead. They exempted from that at the federal level things that are less than 3 foot in length from that regulatory timeline. And so that acceleration, if the state adopts just the acceleration but doesn't change the exemption for small pieces of lead, you could find yourself in a situation where we have a shorter timeline, but yet still the requirement for the galvanized line replacements, right? So part of that is a big effort on our part as they go through the rulemaking process in the state. And we've already started, right? I mean, we had conversations with the director, and then some key staff that the director has. And, the feedback we got was, we're not going to change anything ahead of the rulemaking process, right? But there's a rulemaking process that's coming. And so that's a big piece, I think, of what's in front of us there. Thank you.
And then a couple other legislations that are, being monitored right now is our water affordability bill and the tenant rights on water and sewer bills. Sorry, looking at my notes so I get the wording correct on these. So the water affordability bill was originally introduced in '23, and it's now been recirculated, reintroduced with a little bit different language, a little bit amended language in '25 now. So this aims to give a little more protection for shutoffs, water shutoffs here. And where that differs from the tenant rights on water and sewer bills, the tenant rights one is more on tenants can request a copy of their utility bills or more rights on changing the tenant's name with your utility services here. So both of these are kind of in a monitor status right now. They are gaining some bipartisan support on both of these. So a little bit of movement there, but still just kind of in that monitor status there.
And obviously some of the threats here that come along with that is if you start to have a large enough percentage of the population that has some sort of either rate or maximum bill, that's created, and the overall revenue picture for the utility still going up, that just means, others then that has to be, that has to be passed on to others then. And so obviously something that we're concerned about. Again, our water rates, and the reason we've also structured our tiered rate system the way that we have is to try to address some of that too. I think a lot of those that are using water for their base needs as opposed to large irrigation demands might find themselves in a state of needing to have the affordability. So having the tiered rate system does at least bring you closer to having something that is trying to maybe follow that sort of model. But it still could be challenging. And it also, I think the things that we get concerned about are the same things we dealt with on the energy side. It's like, well, how big of an area are we collecting something for? If we're doing something into a pool to support others, where's that money going to go? So there's a lot of different aspects of that we start to get concerned about, as the language evolves through the legislative processes.
All right, and then looking at our wastewater utility here, PFAS, I'm sure we've all heard of PFAS. It's a huge topic. It's been around. It's going to keep being a topic. So EPA has their draft risk assessment models that they've conducted in this past year here. Right now, there is no actual ruling on the extent of the regulations with PFAS right now. They're looking at the extent of the effect to human health in regard to PFAS. So right now it's still reviewing these risk assessments and looking at public comment here. So not a huge change in that, but definitely still something on the radar. Wastewater collection license requirement. Apologize, I don't know the extent of what we want to cover for that here, so I'm going to pass that back to you again.
Yeah, I'm maybe going to ask, I don't know, Ted, if you have anything to weigh in on that, so the collection system. Why don't you go ahead, probably more precisely hit it.
So whether you've known or you don't know, but all of our water operators have to have a license to work on the water system, whether that's treatment or in the distribution system. Same for wastewater. You have to have a license if you're in the wastewater treatment. But today, if you want to work, if you're in the field working on the sewer, there is no licensing requirement to do that. Now, in many cases, just like ours, the folks that are working on the water are some of the same folks that are working on the sewer, not at the same time, obviously. Right. So there's a push to get a license requirement for those collection system workers. We wouldn't be, that looks like it's actually, things have been finalized. They haven't been totally rolled out yet as far as the timing, but we would be on the back end of that. If you have an NPDES permit, if you don't have an NPDES permit, so for example, Holland Township, their collection system runs through the water reclamation facility, which is ours. So because they don't have a separate MPDS permit, they would be prioritized for the licensure requirement. So it's nothing that we're really too worried about. Our folks have done a really good job. Most of them have exceeded the license requirement that they're required for their position. And we actually pay a license, every year we'll pay them extra for holding a more advanced license than what's required from the position, just from a professional development standpoint. It's a good idea. So this would just become part of that program. We would probably have a minimum license requirement on the sewer side as well as the water side. So that's kind of the gist of it. We're probably multiple years away before there's actually enforcement for our folks.
So at the present time, it's still operators only? Or is it operators?
Yeah, right now, none of that will change. So the folks that are at the water reclamation facility have a license. Joel holds an A license, which is the highest treatment level for sanitary that you can hold. Many of those folks do, and they get paid extra to actually hold that A license because we got into a situation in our water services area that is an S1. We have to have it because of our size. We have to have an S1 license holder. Well, with retirements and folks leaving and everything, when Peter came in, he was from Colorado, so he didn't have the Michigan S license. He had something comparable, but it just took a while to get that. We actually paid an operator to be the operator in charge and hold that S1 license. Now, again, we have 5 or 6 folks that in that department that actually have an S1 license again. So there's some ebb and flow to it, but all those are staying the same. This is just an additional requirement for the collection system. Yeah.
So there's some ebb and flow to the water department.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pun intended.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Ted. It's a lot easier when I can pawn off my slides to people. All right, and then lastly here, little administration update here. BPW is definitely getting involved more so engaging with state legislators and exploring a possible shared resource with the city for some lobbying engagement, a lobbyist there. So this could get us, a foot in the door in some of those discussions with these water bills, especially, and some of these energy, amendments and rulings that are still in that exploratory and proposed stages there. So get us part of that discussion and, be a part of that impact of how that might affect not only our, utility, but others as well, and be involved in that.
Yeah, I could say, just to that Keith and I have had a lot of conversations around the lobbying engagement, and I know that that's a topic I think that's involved in the fiscal budget for both entities here. And so there's a lot of important things that are happening. I think there's some MML related things as well. That's a call to action. I saw some things today as well that are happening. So having Holland of its size and complexity, I know this is something that Lansing has. Lansing Board of Water and Light, City of Lansing have direct lobbying engagement. We certainly do spend a lot of time working through our trade associations, but sometimes the issues are unique enough and important enough to our cities that having this direct involvement would make sense. And so I appreciate that Keith is talking about that as well, and I think that'll serve both the city and the BPW well by doing that.
Any questions on the slides I covered?
So I have a question. We hear so much about the water and wastewater systems and so forth, the gas lines, and have we ever had violations? Have we had issues? Don't hear much about that side of this. I mean, it's long, but maybe not as complex of a system.
Fortunately, in the time I've been here, we haven't had major complications with our public service inspections. Each time they come around, we have a handful of recommendations or follow-up items of additional documentations maybe we couldn't locate at the time of the inspection and have to follow up with them for that. But as far as actual notice of violation and major changes or issues with that, Typically, not a problem, and fingers crossed it won't be.
Yeah,
So fortunately,
great.
not
Thank
very
you.
often.
No, we have a lot of support too, and Madison does a great job, but we also do rely upon consultants that helped us with the design of the system, periodically come in and do various reviews of things as well, and help us make sure that, you know, the programs as they evolve, you know, that we, you know, have things in place. It's not usual for a utility of our size, frankly, to own a high-pressure natural gas pipeline, right? And so it's a really important point of emphasis for us and for our staffs and the electric production crew, but also working with Madison and the rest of the team under the regulatory compliance area to make sure that we're doing all the things necessary on damage prevention, on operator training, all those certifications to make sure that you know, we can safely operate that for our community. And it's been a really strategic and important investment back in the mid-90s when we built the line. And the original line, and then we built the second one, you know, with Holland Energy Park and extended it all the way down to Holland Energy Park. But you know, we understand the criticality and importance of it, and safety aspect of it as well. So yeah, it gets a lot of attention.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you. It's also very cost effective, right?
It has paid for itself many times over. Absolutely.
Have we done any autonomous flights monitoring or on this line or not?
We have not.
We have
No,
not.
it's
And
definitely.
if we did that, would we do it through a contractor? You know,
Possibly, we do. I get quite a few vendor emails of their drone systems and their
Availability,
yeah.
flight, you know, patrols. But at this time, I don't have a
Yeah.
definitive answer for that, whether it would be third party or if our operators would get their drone
Paul,
licenses.
we actually had
yeah.
we had a conversation about this morning, actually, a little bit. I think like anything that we have in terms of a tool that we would want to purchase, you always look at the duty cycle that's involved with that versus, you know, hiring that service to be done. You know, can you develop the expertise in-house? Can you do all? But, you know, when we start looking at the amount of overhead lines we have on the electric system, then you start looking at this and you look, there may be a case as this drone technology evolves where the cost comes to a point where we have enough work to really kind of maximize the duty cycle of it. And the other thing is, it is nice at times to have a tool when you need it, as opposed to saying, hey, I can get to you in 3 weeks and we've got an issue we've got to resolve. You know, so again, that's a factor in that as well, but it has to be justifiable from a duty cycle perspective as well.
yeah, there was a pretty good article in Power, one of the Power things that, you know, we get shot at all the time, and those magazine and about using it, and some of the issues is exactly that, the necessity to have it now versus waiting 2 weeks. you
Yeah.
know, so. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good questions. Any other questions that you have for the team or for the leadership team as well? Anything on this topic?
No, thank you. Very
Yeah.
comprehensive
Thank you
update.
very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks Renee and Jeffrey and Mark and Madison very much. That concludes that study item, and that's the only study item we had on the agenda today. And so what I can do is jump down to communications with the general manager if you'd like on that.
Sounds good.
Just a couple of things tonight as well. One, I just want to kind of bring up to speed. We are narrowing down a little bit on the conversations with potential suppliers for battery energy storage and for solar. One of the elements associated with the solar, we actually have a meeting tomorrow with Ottawa County's Planning and Policy Committee. That'll be tomorrow morning up in at the Fillmore Complex up there, and we'll be talking a little bit about one of the potential sites where they have the ownership of the Southwest Ottawa landfill area for the ballasted system. So we'll be introducing that potential project up there and starting to talk to them about land use and how to potentially start working towards a lease arrangement if that group finds favor with it, being able to sort of move that discussion on. And then on the battery energy storage system too, we had a productive conversation with one of the entities that appears to be sort of the leading candidate there, kind of focusing more on the 48th Street peaking station right now in terms of a site because we have control of property, which helps reduce the cost of that project relative to like East Point Substation. So, so we're continuing to have some conversations there and working towards hopefully something that can start moving into a power purchase agreement process for the solar and a development contract for a build transfer for the battery energy storage. So we'll keep you updated as that moves along. And then just to mention, Janet, I think, sent out a message to everybody, but given the lack of items we had for study this month and the compressed schedule of May, given the fact that Memorial Day is 2 weeks out from now, we had originally had next week scheduled to meet again. We don't really see a need to do that. So we've recommended that we cancel that May 18 meeting, which would make then our next meeting together the June 8 meeting at the BPW Service Center would be our regular meeting in June. And that's all I have today.
Great. It'll be good to be back home.
Yes, absolutely.
Any communications from the board tonight? Hearing none, can we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
Motion by Lynn, supported by Enbergs. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.